All right, hey, seventh graders. So hopefully before this, you watched this video already. If you have not, yeah, I'm going to give you the answers to this, but you really need to watch that video because I'm going to go over it just to film this stuff. But you do need to watch that video. It's a nice visual so you understand what's going on. Because after this, you're going to have to work on your own on these cut and paste activities. So you do need to watch the video. It's only 7 minutes long. It's not too bad. All right, so let's get into it. The purpose of meiosis is to make gametes. Gametes are sex cells, okay? Sex cells are for mating, right? To make a new organism, okay? So like a sperm comes from the male and the egg comes from a female. And so we have that right here. Sperm and the egg, and when these guys conjoin, we make something called a zygote. A zygote is a unicellular organism at its very beginning, right? From here on out, the zygote then starts to multiply into more cells until it finally develops into, for us, it's a human being, obviously, but if we're thinking about biology is thinking about all of the organisms, deer, cattle, all of this other stuff, So if it asks this question, how many chromosomes are in a sperm or an egg cell when they come together to make a fertilized zygote? If that zygote has 46 chromosomes, right? The correct number. So if this guy has 46, well, if we add two guys together, that means one must have 23 and the other has 23. Okay. So essentially what's going on here is our sperm here has 23 chromosomes. Our egg has 23 chromosomes. So you get one of those pair, 23 from mom, 23 from dad, and then that's how we come up with 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. Interphase must occur once before meiosis can happen. Same thing for mitosis. What would happen if interphase didn't occur first? So we got to think about, well, what happens during interphase? What happens during interphase is the DNA replicates, right? It's kind of important. So in mitosis, we talked about the replication of DNA, and that allows for the same number of chromosomes to be in one cell as the other cell. And this needs to happen too, because if this doesn't happen, then there won't be chromosomes to go to the other cells. Okay. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit so it doesn't look so crazy. Maybe we can make it a little bigger like this. All right, there we go. And over here it says, remember that a cell begins meiosis has 23 chromosomes inherited from mom. One is shown in red down here, and 23 from the father, which is shown in blue on the left. In the process of meiosis, chromosomes begin to match up in homologous pairs. How would you know if two chromosomes are homologous? So homologous, the prefix homo means the same. Okay, and so if these guys are the same, that means they're the same chromosomes. And this is kind of where it starts getting tough with this stuff. And so what goes on is, let me get my pen out. So this right here, these guys are actually the same chromosomes, okay? And they pair up. So these guys are identical. The pairs would be the same. Or I should say that they would be identical. Okay, and so we'll only see homologous chromosomes when they buddy up like this. We'll only see these guys during meiosis. We don't see them in mitosis. So crossing over then. So after that, these guys then move closer together, and then they touch, and they'll cross over like what's going on down here. And when they touch like that, they actually swap out their DNA. And so what it would kind of look like is if I have this red guy here, so I make red, but then these guys crossed over down here. So then I would have swapped my bottom portion of red out for this blue guy, and then this blue guy would take the red on. So then the red was taken by the blue guy. Okay, so now these guys have swapped some of their DNA. This causes, something I kind of forgot to mention at the beginning of this video is genetic diversity, or we're looking at mitosis and meiosis today, and we're comparing them. What's the same about mitosis and meiosis, and what's different? So the big thing that's different, after mitosis, so the result of mitosis, we have two daughter cells, right? And they are the same, right? We want to make clones. And so if your skin gets cut and you want it to heal back up, you want to make more skin cells that are exactly the same as skin cells before them, which is good. Like, that's what we need. But when we make new organisms, like here, like these sex cells with sperm and eggs to make a new organism, we want these organisms to be different, have genetic variation, okay? And so some things can happen, like we know bacteria, they divide asexually. They just keep dividing rapidly, which is an advantage for those guys. If they can reproduce very quickly, that's a big time advantage. However, we both know if our body becomes immune to them and starts recognizing that bacteria, our body will then learn what those bacteria look like and kill them very easily, right? Because they're all exactly the same. Or even with antibiotics, if you guys take an antibiotic and you take it for the prescribed amount, right? You don't stop your prescription halfway through. That antibiotic will completely take care of that disease because those bacteria are all the same. Okay, so we're going to talk about what's the, comparing and contrasting that stuff. So what happens during crossing over, and what's the significance? So during the crossing over here, during crossing over, the chromosomes swap DNA. What's so crazy about this? This causes the offspring to be genetically different. Okay, so in meiosis, the offspring will be genetically different. So what's supposed to happen over here, you can see in meiosis, we start out with one, the cell divides, and then each cell divides again. So at the end, we have a total of 4 daughter cells. And these 4 daughter cells will be genetically different. In mitosis, which we've already taken a quiz over, in mitosis, the daughter cells, there's only 2, and they are genetically identical. Meiosis does PMAT twice. PMAT means prophase for P, M for metaphase, A for anaphase, and T for telophase. Essentially, that's mitosis. So it does mitosis twice. That means that there's a prophase 1 and that there's a prophase 2, metaphase 2, etc. If the cartoon below has chromosomes in the middle of the cell, how do we know whether it's metaphase 1 or metaphase 2? So what is this? Is this metaphase 1 or metaphase 2? This is actually metaphase 1. Okay, and how do we know this is metaphase 1? Well, number 1, how many cells are there? 1, right? Here's 1 cell. We're in metaphase 1. And so this would be meiosis 1. This is meiosis 2. During meiosis 2, they have 2 cells that are starting to divide. Here, we still have 1. But then also, we have these guys. We have homologous chromosomes. Okay? So again, these guys pair up, right? And we can see this is red right here. This is red. This is blue. This is blue. This is red. So these guys have already done their crossing over within the homologous chromosomes. And so since there are homologous chromosomes, this must be metaphase 1. So it's in the first part of meiosis. How do we know this? We see homologous pairs. Okay, and then over here, number 6 says meiosis does not always occur without difficulties. Describe what occurs during non-disjunction and the effects of resulting. So what occurs, and so this is non-disjunction. So we start out with 2 sets of chromosomes here, right? We start out with 2 sets, but then both of them go over here, and then they divide them up amongst these cells. This cell down here does not get these guys, and so these these cells down here result in no chromosomes. And that's going to be a problem, obviously. If an egg is produced and there's no chromosomes in there, that egg is going to die. There's no instructions for it to do anything. Also, if they have too many chromosomes, so these guys obviously would have too many chromosomes, there is a genetic disorder. So we'll get genetic disorders from this. So let's talk about this. So non-disjunction, what goes on here? The DNA is not equally divided. All right, what can happen or what can affect the resulting cells? This can lead to genetic disorders. Okay, and so some genetic disorders, one that specifically this one's probably talking about is something called trisomy 21. And so trisomy 21 is when, so human beings, right, we've talked about this a few times. Human beings have mom and dad, dad has 23, mom has 23, and then we get 46. We need 46 chromosomes. We don't want 47, we don't want 45. 46 is perfect. Sometimes in trisomy 21, the zygote or the individual, right, the child ends up with 47 chromosomes. So where's that 47th chromosome coming from? Trisomy 21 means the 21st chromosome. So we all have 23. That 21st chromosome, mom gives 21, gives one pair of her 21st. The dad gives his 21st pair, and that's normally how it's supposed to go. But what happens is maybe mom gives hers, but then dad gives both of his 21st chromosomes. So now you have 3, right, instead of just our pair. And so this can result in Down syndrome in children. So trisomy 21 is actually the common name for it is Down syndrome, and that can result in genetic disorders, learning disabilities, and things like that. Okay, so there's that. So after here, we've talked about this PMAT. It goes through PMAT twice. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase 1. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase 2. Okay, you guys should be able to do this one. Down here, think about it for a second. All right, try to fill this in on your own. Pause the video and try to fill it in and just think where you'd put it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do it on my own. So interphase occurs once before the process begins. So does interphase happen before mitosis, the quiz that we just took last week? Does it do normal cellular activity? Does it do normal growth? Does it replicate its DNA before mitosis happens? Yeah. Does that happen before meiosis? Yeah. So in our little Venn diagram, right, here's mitosis, here's meiosis, and then here's both. Okay, and so this would happen, boom, right here in both. Process ends with identical cells. And so if we scroll up here, or we go to the last page, nope, the other way. During crossing over, the chromosomes swap DNA. This causes the offspring to be genetically different. So is it meiosis, right? We're explaining meiosis in this whole thing. So process ends with identical cells? Not meiosis. So mitosis, we know mitosis is like that because if you get cut and you need to make more skin cells, you need to make identical skin cells. Produce gametes. If we think about this guy right here, produce gametes. Right here, gametes, also known as sperm and egg. So this is talking about meiosis, right? And so does this produce gametes? Does mitosis? No. Meiosis produces gametes. Produces 4 cells that each have 23 chromosomes. Yes. Meiosis, we start with 1, and we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is non-disjunction, right? If we didn't have non-disjunction, then this guy wouldn't be in here, this wouldn't be in here, and instead they would be right here and right here. That way they all have the same amount of chromosomes. Okay. So yes, results in 4 chromosomes that are not identical. Crossing over occurs. Yep, we just talked about him. Important for growth and repair. Boom, right here. Growth and repair. Okay, so now that you guys got this done, now what you need to do is you need to go ahead and so here's my plan book, right? So you guys watched the video. You guys have filled out the video recap of the amoeba sisters, and now you need to do the mitosis and meiosis comparisons. Okay, so I click on this guy. And here it is. And so here's mitosis, which we've already done before. You should know this one. So it says cut out the cell division cards, organize them into the correct order for both mitosis and meiosis. Hint, both sets of cards, mitosis, start with 4 chromosomes in each prophase. Okay? And so this is a gray box. This is because mitosis is done, right? The nucleus divides one time. So here, the nucleus is dividing throughout here. In meiosis, the nucleus divides twice. So first, it starts here in prophase, goes down to telophase. Now we have, at the end of telophase, we'll have 2 new cells. But then it starts in prophase 2. So now those 2 new cells in prophase, and then they start dividing yet again. And so at the end of telophase, we'll have those 4 cells that are genetically different. Okay? And so here's this, you need to fill this out afterwards, but here's these guys. So here's these pictures. You guys need to cut these and paste them here where they should belong. If this would work out super well if I do snipping tool. Oh, this is so good. I didn't think about this until now. So if I take my snipping tool and let's say I look at this and I think, all right, so I copy. Let me see here. I'm going to have to download this. Let me do something real fast here. I'll print them out. Sorry, guys, we're just about there. Give me a second longer. Anyway, so you can cut those out with the snipping tool, and then you can paste them. You can paste them in one of these boxes, and that's what you need to do. And then, so you're going to download these obviously as like a Word document. But now, let's say, all right, so here's this guy. All right, here's that guy that I did with my snipping tool. So how I did that, I snipped it with my snipping tool. I went to edit, and I just pressed copy here, okay? And then what I did is I right-click, and I do paste, and then wham, bam, he shows up right here. And so here I see one cell, right? So both mitosis and meiosis start out with 1 cell. However, this is not the beginning, right? There's 4 sets of chromosomes, but we don't see our homologous pairs, do we? No. Right? And so meiosis begins out with homologous pairs. These guys, this right here, where we have 2 rows. So these are homologous pairs. So we do not see that here in this picture. So it's got to be over here in mitosis. And so are these guys lined up in the middle? No. However, A for apart, anaphase, are they being pulled to the opposite ends? Yes. So then you can place that there. So you can keep doing that for all of them, placing them right there. Once you get those all lined up and in order, then you can go ahead and start answering these questions right here. If you're having trouble with those, go back to your amoeba sisters right here and watch that video again or whatever you need to do, and that will help you fill out that comparison table. The comparison table and the cutout, all of that stuff's due by Friday, okay? All right, let me know if you guys need any help.